Eternal Spirit of the living Christ, come with the vision and the strength we need. Fulfill our lives in love outpoured, our life in you, O Christ, your love in us. Amen. "50 years or so ago, more or less, the people who were in charge of Calvary Camp decided that it would be okay to let a bunch of us teenagers be in charge of children. Some of those folks who were my compatriots at that time are here this morning. The younger ones are here for their 50th high school reunion, and so we're taking this opportunity to gather together and to reconnect with one another. We learned a lot working at camp. We served and cared for children, and we learned about building community. We took care of children 24 hours a day, counting to make sure we had them all, with the little rugrat 8-year-olds pulling on our sleeves and the older kids trying to figure out exactly how to wind their way around the rules and do what they really wanted to do. We were in charge of things as scary as sailboats and a swimming pool, some of us only in the craft hall. That was better that way. But we really learned about who children are, what they need, how they live, and how to care for them. We learned what it meant to serve as if everyone's job is equally important, to serve in a way that doesn't make cleaning the bathroom any less significant than taking care of children, to understand that every piece of that puzzle is essential. We learned to speak directly and openly and clearly in communication with each other and to listen to one another, because that kind of being together is absolutely crucial when you are entrusted with the well-being and safety of people. And we learned through the great influence of our leaders, especially Father John Thomas, what it means to build Christian community. We learned to join together, to serve, to care for one another, and we learned that that community is built just as strongly when you're sweating on a Saturday cleaning out the cabins as when you're standing arm in arm in the chapel singing together. We find Jesus this morning in the midst of building community with his disciples, with the 12, his closest followers. They seem to be having difficulty hearing his message. They are unable and unwilling to hear that his kingdom is marked and characterized by self-forgetful, self-sacrificial love. Instead, they are focused on who among them is the greatest. And so, as they reach their destination in Capernaum, they gather together in the house, and Jesus asks them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" They are too embarrassed to answer, because their argument was an argument born out of their own pride and self-interest and wanting to make themselves bigger and greater. Jesus understands that and teaches them anyway. He teaches them first with words about the greatest being the one who is willing to be last of all and the servant of all. But then, as he so often does, he teaches in a concrete way by example. His example comes as he embraces a child, puts that child in the midst of them, and draws their attention to that child. Subtly, or maybe not so subtly, making the distinction between what is childish and what is childlike in our lives. A child, open, humble, curious, ready to receive the world, and completely free of any sense of self-justification, unaware of status, not concerned about who is the greatest. Jesus also welcomes that child as a sign of those who are not important, not held in significance, not central to the life of the community, but those who are the least of all. Children were not held to be in very high value in those days. Before they were old enough to work and be useful, they were almost a liability, and so they represent those who are out there on the edges, not central to the story. And Jesus looks at this child and says, if you want to welcome me, welcome the child. If you want to welcome the one who sent me, welcome the child. Jesus is still forming and shaping Christian community among us. In the life of this congregation, a congregation with a strong sense of service to the world, a congregation which has always been able to communicate clearly and directly and honestly things that we are for, things that we are against, things that we care about in the world. In the life of this congregation, which has endured many, many times of strife and survived and thrived and lived, in this congregation, there's an undercurrent of dissent and distrust and uneasiness about who we are. Jesus puts a child in the midst of us as well. Jesus puts that child there to remind us of the importance of serving, of the importance of humility. Jesus puts that child in the midst of us to remind us that direct, clear, honest communication is necessary and crucial if we are to promote the well-being of people who gather together in community. In our nation, we also see a time when the insistence on being right has replaced any sense at all of the common good, where we continually miss the opportunity to welcome and care for those who are the least. Jesus puts a child in the midst of that situation as well. Jesus says, where are the children? Where are the children who are hungry? Where are the children whose schools fail them year after year? Where are the children waiting at the border to come in? Where are the children vulnerable to disease? Where are the children whose water is not safe? Where are the children who need homes and safety and security and stability in this world. See them. Welcome the child in your midst. Jesus is not the least bit interested in who claims to be the greatest. Jesus is interested in who acts with the greatest grace, the greatest compassion, and the greatest love. What were we arguing about? Amen.